Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing really well. Hope you've had a really great week, and I hope you really enjoyed the results of last week's presentation where we looked at those 4 different goddesses. So your homework or your home play was to connect with one of those archetypes, one of those goddesses, and to draw their energy into your life through using either rose, jasmine, neroli, or magnolia. So before we dive into 5 other goddesses from around the world, I'd love to know in the chat, how did you go? Which goddess and oil you worked with, what you did, what you noticed, any of those kind of sharings would be really valuable. So pop it in the chat, or if someone's really inspired and wants to unmute themselves and share, I'd love that as well. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. Cool, looks like you're all gonna be shy, which is quite all right. I'll just wait for you to put something in the chat. Awesome. So Tony was working with Aphrodite and just using it every single day. Awesome. Nicole really dived into Isis and Jasmine and hadn't really connected with her before. It'd be interesting to know how you went with that as well. Tony was really enjoying it. Yeah, awesome. Helena, Jasmine and Isis is that real magical self. So it's kind of not, Isis is not so much a practical everyday goddess. She's one you call upon to connect with your magical self, your spiritual self, and also your ability to bring your spirituality and your magic into your everyday life. So how do I make this happen? How do I make this appear? How do I rearrange the universe to make things happen? Awesome. No, that's great. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing that. If you're still typing, feel free to continue with that as well. So, welcome to week 2 or part 2 of our diving into the mystical journey. Today, we're going to look at some rarer oils, some lesser known goddesses, but again, these are different ones that you can lean into at different aspects as well. I want to kind of remind you that don't feel that you have to pick one goddess and that's your goddess and that's what you lean into. My hope would be over the next 10 years, there may be stages in your life when you would need to call upon all 9 of these. Evoke them within you, lean into those oils and so on as well. So to get us started, let me pull up our little slideshow and we'll dive in. Again, if you have any questions at any time, please definitely dive in and ask them as well. So we're going to start off like we did last time. I'm going to show you the images of the 5 goddesses to start off with. So I'd just like you to kind of take in the artistry, take in the feel of the goddess, how she makes you feel. And I want you to choose your favorites. Maybe one or maybe a couple that you really resonate with, but maybe look for your favorite 2. So this is goddess number 1. And into goddess number 2. Again, you may recognize some of this artwork or some of these goddesses. It's not about that. It's about how does that person make me feel? Do I connect with them? I'm hopeful there's at least one that you haven't all heard of tonight. That's goddess number 3, under goddess number 4. And goddess number 5. So just to recap that, we've got goddess number 1 in the top left-hand corner, goddess number 2 in the bottom left-hand corner, then we had goddess number 3 was on the bottom right-hand corner, goddess number 4 in the center, and goddess number 5 in the top right. Let me know in the chat what were your favorite 2 or the 2 that you really drew to. Again, these aren't the exact goddess. The goddess can be depicted in many different ways, and I've got dual kind of ones to share that with you. We had a 3 and a 5 there, cool, and a 3, but kind of just giving you a bit of a feel for these goddesses. One and 4, beautiful. I always love to see what people resonate with. And I love the fact that, even just in a group that we have here at the moment, that we're all resonating with different goddesses in different ways. So beautiful. Oh, and there's 2 as well. Beautiful. So I think each goddess got at least 1 mention there. Let's dive in and let's explore these goddesses. So the first goddess is Juno. That is her Roman name. Her Greek name is, oh, Nicole's biased. I did see you smile, Nicole, when number 2 came up. So yes. So Juno, and the Greeks would know her as Hera. She is Zeus's or Jupiter's wife. Now, she's got a really interesting story. So obviously she was married to Zeus. And if you know much about Zeus, you know that he had a lot of love to give. He was always off pursuing some gorgeous young woman or man or nymph or goddess or something and having sexual relations with them. But Hera was very different. She really honored that vow of marriage, that commitment between 2 people. And she never cheated on Zeus. However, I don't want you to see her as this meek kind of woman sitting at home going, oh, my husband's out having fun and he doesn't love me anymore. No, she really stood in her own right. And there are countless stories of anyone who also didn't respect their marriage and their marriage vows, her punishing them, turning them into stone or into an animal or some other kind of torturous thing that just couldn't be reversed because they had not honored that, even if they'd been seduced by Zeus and they couldn't resist, kind of thing. A classic story of where one person escaped was actually the young man Ganymede, who Zeus was having a bit of a fling with, and brought him up to Olympus, and he was the cupbearer, so he would pour the drinks when all the gods were feasting. Hera got wind of this and actually decided, right, I'm going to get rid of him. Zeus was like, I need to protect Ganymede. Gave him a drink of tansy. Now, don't go drinking a blue tansy essential oil, but tansy made him immortal, and thus he placed him in the sky as the sign Aquarius. So there's a bit of a story if you're an Aquarian. That's to do with, Aquarians are known to, they're ruled by Uranus as well. They're a little bit odd, and it was a bit of an odd relationship between this older god and this younger boy. And, immortal and a god isn't conventional as well. And that's kind of what Aquarius is. What happens if we think outside the square? Anyway, I digress. So here you have this really powerful goddess who basically, one of her sayings is, my word is my bond. And this is something I learned probably 25 years ago in a personal development course. My word is my bond. What if you did exactly what you said you were going to do? Now, that doesn't mean that, okay, sometimes we need to falter back on what we say, but then you claim that and you go, I'm sorry, I know I committed to this. I need to recommit to that because I haven't upheld my word. But how many people go, yeah, I'll call you later, or yeah. And, my partner gets annoyed at me because I often go, I have to do this because I said I would. And having that strength and conviction really gives the universe this, I'm in resonance between what I say and what I do. The other resonance you want to have, or the other thing you want to have in sync, is what you think. If you're thinking, saying, and doing exactly the same thing, then there's no, it gives a really clear message to other people and to the universe, and it makes it easier to manifest. So Juno helps you to be committed to commitments, not just marriage and romantic relationships, but to all commitments. Now, the interesting thing is Juno actually is going into retrograde next week. She's going on the 25th, which I think is Monday or Tuesday off the top of my head. I think maybe Monday. And what happens is normally when Juno goes into retrograde, relationships get tested. Now, normally when we're having an issue with a relationship, we get into this idea of keeping score. Fine. You forgot my birthday? Well, guess what I'm going to do? Not going to bother doing anything special for your birthday. You went and bought that? Well, I'm going to spend some of our money and buy something for myself then. You did, and that kind of thing. And what happens is we get that tit for tat. Now, if you've got 2 people in a relationship, this can be a marriage or it can be a business relationship or any other relationship. If they are keeping score and doing tit for tat, no one's giving their best. And what hopes do we have that relationship being its best? So what Juno retrograde and what Juno helps us with is to be the best, to worry about who we are in a relationship rather than our partner, to be devoted, to love unconditionally, and to uphold what is right, what's moral. Now, that doesn't mean, again, that you let partners get away with murder. But in giving your best, then you know, I've given it my all. And a good thing to do, if you're questioning a relationship in your life, see if you can give it your best throughout Juno retrograde. And when it comes out of retrograde on the 22nd of October, if it's still not working and you've done your absolute utmost, then it's time to walk away. But there's no regrets going, well, I was as bad as them, so no wonder it didn't work. So Juno is who we call upon to lean into our morals, to what's right, to do what we'll say we'll do, regardless of how other people are acting. Not lowering our vibration because other people around us are lowering our vibration. Juno helps us as well. Her animal, her sacred animal is the peacock. And so what happens, the peacock is about being proud of being who you are, putting out the best, being the best version of yourself in all times, staying in integrity. But also, if you think on that tail feather, every tail feather has an eye. Juno is very protective. She protects you. She protects relationships that are important to you. And she sees everything. So she's really powerful in that way. So I absolutely love this goddess who's often kind of depicted as being a little bit grumpy or rigid, but sometimes we need that sternness about ourselves. One of her sacred plants is the lotus flower. And of course, we have blue lotus essential oil from doTERRA. It came out as a limited edition. Hopefully you got a chance to get some. If you are gagging for some, I do have some if you're interested in it. So then, but this is a really magical essential oil. Now, a lot of lotus oils out there are totally synthetic and artificially made. It's really hard to get pure lotus essential oil. And you can get different colors. There's white lotuses, there's pink lotuses, and blue lotuses. Who knows, maybe doTERRA will do different colors one day. But what happens is I want you to think about the lotus flower. And if you've got mine and Vanessa's book, Gifts of Essential Oils, or our cards, you'll notice that we group each of the oils by the elements of water, air, fire, earth, and akasha, based on where they come from. So floral oils are associated with water. Now, water has to do with love and our emotional side. Blue lotus is much more connected to water than any of the other flowers. Why? Because it grows upon the water. So there's a really interesting phenomenon with a lotus flower. And what happens if you pour, let's say you pour vinegar on a lotus flower, it would still smell like a lotus flower. You could pour Chanel No. 5 on a lotus flower and it would still smell exactly like a lotus flower. A lotus flower is aquaphobic. It repels the vinegar, the nastiness, and the sweetness. So on an energetic level, Blue Lotus allows you to forget about other people's opinions and worry about what other people are doing and to do what you know to be right. Lotus flower says, I am focusing on what is right for me and not being affected by other people. I'm being the best version of myself. So it's really sacred in that way. The other thing it is Blue Lotus is obviously connected to water, as I said, but it doesn't grow in the water. The flower grows upon the water, upon the emotional realm, not within the emotional realm. So what happens is Blue Lotus is a really high vibration oil that helps with something called emotional intelligence. We all have emotions. And just like we have a critic and we have all these other aspects of ourselves, I want you to ask yourself, do you run your emotions and do you listen to your emotions, or do your emotions run you? Your emotions are a guidance system that tell you what's in resonance with your highest good and what's not. If it feels good, it's right. If it doesn't feel right, it's wrong. And often I know we've all done it. I've done it where we've tried to do a little sneaky and not tell someone about something or do something a bit immoral. And our emotions are telling us this isn't right. We know that. And maybe our head goes, oh, you'll get away with it. We'll be fine in that type of way. But what happens is if you're getting drowned by your emotions, if you're reacting emotionally, if you're doing things not spontaneously, but kind of erupting in that way, Blue Lotus Hera doesn't do that. She's very composed. And so Blue Lotus allows us to just take guidance from our emotions and go, doesn't feel right. So if you have got a cheating partner You're going to know that's not right. Doesn't mean that you need to become nasty or bitchy. You're going to stay at that high level, be the best partner you can, maybe chat to your partner about it. And if they're not willing to change, and that's not right, then you keep your head held high, knowing you were the best person, you never stoop low, and you walk away. The other thing is that Blue Lotus opens up towards the sun. So it encourages you to open up to the light, towards the good, towards the moral in that way. So this is a slightly different aspect of Blue Lotus that people don't always focus on, but it's really about being the best version of yourself, the most spiritual and the most divine, but on a practical level as well. So I really love it. And the fact that the lotus flower is connected with Juno or Hera is awesome as well. Kuan Yin. Sometimes you'll see this spelled with a Q, sometimes the second letter is a W, but she is a Chinese Buddhist goddess of mercy, compassion, kindness, and love. And just by looking at the art depiction, she has this real kindness about her. So it's really, one thing I found really interesting about her overall name is Kuan Yin is a short form of Quan Shi Yin, which means observing the sounds or observing the cries of the human world. That kind of sounds a little bit depressing. But Kuan Yin has this real gentleness to her, this real motherliness to her. And basically what she's about is kindness. Think about how the world would be if we could double the amount of kindness in the world. If everyone was just a little bit more kindness, rather than that selfishness. So what Kuan Yin brings in is that compassionate side. Instead of going, that person's a dickhead, going, maybe that person's struggling right now. Wonder if there's anything I can do to support them. Or maybe just leaving them be is the best thing I can do to let them go through that struggle. We've all had bad times. We've all had sufferings. And maybe some of your past pain sufferings have been re-emerging over the last few days while Chiron's in retrograde. Having that understanding and that kindness and that love and just seeing that we're all trying our bloody best. When someone doesn't return an email or phone you back or forget something, we're all trying our best. And Kuan Yin brings in that energy of just going, okay, that's okay. I understand that you're trying your best. Again, you may need to bring in a little bit of Hera and go, well, or a little bit of another goddess we'll talk about later, Vesta, and go, I still deserve the best. It's not about becoming a doormat. It's just about awakening that compassionate side within yourself. So if you find that you're a bit judgmental, that you're often critical of other people, then Kuan Yin could be a good aspect to bring out within yourself. The other thing is, not only does Kuan Yin help you to be kinder to other people, but kinder to yourself. We talked before about our emotional self, maybe ruling us and overwhelming us. And sometimes the critical self can do the same as well. The critic is a good aspect to have because it allows us to evaluate ourselves and keep questioning, how do I grow? How do I evolve? How do I ascend? But the critic is meant to be a staff member, not the boss. It's meant to give us ideas and tips. But if it starts telling you that you're no good and dragging you down, then it's not serving it anymore. And awakening that Kuan Yin of just like, today you're enough. That's good enough. It's a really beautiful thing to do. Now, the essential oil that works really well with Kuan Yin is gardenia. And I do hope that you've all had the chance to work with gardenia. So this is one of the few oils in the doTERRA range. Another one is Palmarosa. We'll talk about the third one in a little while, and I'll let you know when we get to that, of the higher heart chakra. So we have two chakras around the chest area. We have our heart chakra. Now, the heart chakra is about my relationship with you. Do I give and do I receive in love and value? If that's unbalanced, maybe I give, and I don't get enough back. Or maybe I'm take, and I don't give anything back. That's an imbalance in the heart chakra. It's a one-on-one kind of relationship, how I am with my each personal relationships. The higher heart chakra, imagine it on the upper chest and kind of shining out to the world, is how we feel about humanity overall. Do you believe that we're all parasites just ruining the earth and we're all going, down the toilet? Or do you see that people are, again, doing their best, that they're trying, that there are good people doing good things in this world, and you tend to lean into that rather than having this pessimism all the time? Gardenia helps really beautifully with that. It's actually really high in mineral, so it's like a lavender. So it really helps to bring that gentleness again. It brings relief from stress and worry. It's a healer of a broken heart. And what it does is, this is the passage I just nicked this out of our book. Accept Gardenia's invitation to explore how your perceived flaws serve you in some way, leading you to see that all aspects of yourself are beautiful. So what do you not like about yourself? What do you not like about other people? How can you see that they're actually serving you in some way? Like the critic that we just talked about. And thus seeing that there's nothing wrong and nothing to change, and loving yourself and seeing the beauty in that. So gardenia is really stunning for that. Another little thing I'll throw in with gardenia, juniper berry used to be my #1 oil for anointing on the soles of the feet at night to help you dream more. That was surpassed by gardenia. Amazing on the feet for making you dream more. Okay. Let's make sure I pronounce this right. Amaterasu. It's a Japanese goddess. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Amaterasu, but she's another goddess of the sun. Basically, she is the one who rides across the sky. So we see this in other goddesses like Freya that we talked about last week. We also see it in Apollo and Helios from Greek and Roman religions as well, riding across the sun. Now, normally the sun is got a more yang energy, but in Japanese culture, Amaterasu is, Amaterasu. I'm never going to get that right tonight. It has that solar capacity about her as well. So she is very much, there's a really beautiful story that her companions or her priestesses or her maidens, each night they make her a new cloak. And the cloak that she decides to wear each day is the weather for the day. So I guess, some days we have beautiful blue skies and other days we have gloomy grey skies. And sometimes we have beautiful sunrises and sunsets. That's all to do with Amaterasu's cloak that she wears as she glides across the sky. So she's being a goddess of the sun. She represents illumination and enlightenment. And she really encourages you to look a little bit deeper. So one of Amaterasu is shining light on things. So especially if you've maybe had a bit of a disagreement with someone recently, it's possibly that maybe you need to look at that again and reevaluation. So she really encourages you to bring that capacity in. She also helps you to shine bright. She's a real kind of self-esteem and self-belief goddess of allowing your creativity to bring prosperity. She really helps you also to lean in to, I'm going to shine bright, but again, I'm not going to be too bold. So she's probably got a bit more gentleness than Freya in helping you to show compassion, but show purpose and that can help in career success, that balance between that yin and yang typical energies as well. Now, her symbols are a sword and a mirror. That sword kind of represents that purpose, that strength. And then that mirror is that kind of self-reflection, that compassion and that love and that beauty. Seeing your own beauty. She's probably one of my favorite goddesses for self-esteem and for honoring yourself in that way. So she helps you to also be a light worker. So what is a light worker? This is really quite poignant because we've got the new moon in Aquarius. Hold on, we've got the new moon in Aquarius next? Yes, new moon in Aquarius next month. And Aquarius is about how do we make this world a better place? That's kind of big question of that. How can you make this world a better place? By shining a little bit more. So Amaterasu is really great to lean into around the full moon in Aquarius. A light worker is someone who brings positivity, optimism, hope, faith, and joy into the world. Now, a light worker isn't necessarily someone who's spiritual. They're totally independent because there are a lot of spiritual people, and you'll see these in New Age, circles and pages and groups and so on. they're actually quite negative. They're pointing out what the government's doing wrong or what other people are doing wrong. They drag down, they cause doubt, they cause disbelief, they cause separation. They don't focus on the goodness. And Amaterasu is about how can we look at bringing the light? What are people trying to achieve? She's a really lovely goddess in this way. And it doesn't mean that you need to get on social media and start doing reels and bringing light to the whole world. Maybe she just encourages you, this aspect within you of how can I bring a little bit of light to someone's life? A little bit of fun, a little bit of joy. Really beautiful in that way. Now, one thing that I really want you to lean into is that she is accompanied by these maidens who dress her every day, that bring out the best and allow her to shine. And this leans into her essential oil, chrysanthemum. Now, chrysanthemums in both Japan and China represent royalty. And what happens is chrysanthemum, this beautiful yellow flower, helps you to outshine any darkness. But just like the goddess has this ability to, well, if you think about her maidens, they create a cloak for her every day or every night, so the next day she shines. And so Amaterasu and chrysanthemum encourage you to be your royal self and to do a bit of a stock take of the company that you keep. Are the people in your life lifting you up, helping you to shine, allowing you to be like Amaterasu, or are they dragging you down, dragging you into the dimness, telling you you're not good enough, criticizing you, making you not feel good about yourself? Chrysanthemum allows us to be aware of that. It's a solar plexus oil, so it allows us to shine. And it's really, really great for actually giving you the confidence to go, these people aren't right for me. I'm not going to give them so much energy and time. You may, their family or someone you work with, you may have to give them a bit of focus, but sharing it to who's going to make me feel better. This is a really great oil that when you feel that something in your life is unresolved and weighing you down, how do you find a resolution for that? How do you deal with that? So, I can't remember the exact quote, but flying with the eagles rather than scratching with the chickens. Amaterasu and chrysanthemum are about that. Of like, ain't nobody gonna drag me down kind of thing. So really beautiful to lean into. When do you need to just shine and be more buoyant kind of thing? So I guess the difference between maybe the two solar goddesses, Freya is very much about shining out in the world and conquering the world. Amaterasu had a little bit of that shining and success, but it's more about just who you are and your vibration, and really beautiful in that way. Eos. I love this goddess. There's not too much about her. She had a bit of a thing for mortal men, and she often brought mortal men up into the heavens. But I quite love this. I think it's an older picture of her on the right there. And basically Eos, she is the goddess of the dawn. And basically each morning from her home on the edge of the river Oceanus, she basically flings open the door and sends out the light. So that beautiful feeling of dawn that you get. And then what happens is either Apollo or Helios gets on their chariot and rides across the sky and illuminates the sky. But she brings us out of the darkness. So again, this is another goddess that kind of, you can lean into her as well, who allows you to decide that you're no longer going to be affected by the darkness and the destructive influence of your life. Eos with the dawn, it's like that. She's a reset goddess. She helps us to lean into like, hold on, no. It's kind of, you may have had one of these moments in your life where you're just like, no, hold on. This is not right. This is not good. I need to change this. And she brings us bringing light back to a situation. And you can actually ask Eos to help you fall back in. You may have gone, I'm doing something that's not right. How do I get back in there? And Eos stepped in and that like, I'm going to do it. Flinging open the door and doing it. She's very lovely, beautiful, inspirational, very delicate and light in her energy. She's a beautiful one. And so the essential oil that leans in really well with her is osmanthus. Now, I hope you've all got osmanthus as well. I actually think for those who live in Australia or have experienced this, it smells like peach wine cooler. Now, maybe when you were younger, it's a cask wine, it's kind of peach flavored. That's what it reminds me of. But if you don't know what peach wine cooler is, this oil comes from a flower and it smells like either apricots or peaches. Really beautiful. Now, this is an oil of fresh starts and new beginnings. And where I really love osmanthus is after a dark period, especially if you've had a crappy day the night before or the day before. And what I love to do, osmanthus takes me to that dawn moment. And I don't know if you have the privilege of getting up around dawn and being the only one moving around your home, but there's this beautiful energy of peacefulness. Maybe you can only hear a couple of birds twittering as this potentiality of what will the day bring? I wonder what's in store for me. And what I'll do if I'm kind of feeling like something like I had a fight last night or I didn't get everything done or anything like that, I'll grab my osmanthus, I'll roll it on my hands and on my wrists and breathe it in. And just like Eos, I'll decide it's a new day. It's a new beginning. I'm not going to bring that darkness into this day. So these two are really nice to lean into when you decide no more. It's a brand new day. It's a fresh start. And that could be just after, a bad one day, or it can be after a bad patch in your life, a bad period, bad sickness, a bad habit that you've been doing. Eos and osmanthus really help you with that. It's great when we find we always have goals, but we come off track. And osmanthus helps us to get back in alignment with that. Hold on, what am I doing? Let's get back into the light. Let's get back into positive, being my best self. And osmanthus brings in new love. Because when we open ourselves to, right, I'm not going to be in that darkness anymore, we're then allowing new things to come into our life because we raise our vibration again. So osmanthus is beautiful for that. I may have saved the best to last. She's one of my favorites. I see a couple of people nodding. This is Artemis, or the Greeks knew her as Diana. She's the goddess of wild animals. She's known as the goddess of the hunt, of chastity, and the moon. So let me tell you a little bit about her mythology. So she is one of the daughters of Zeus or Jupiter. And basically, after watching all the other gods and goddesses and some of the mortals and their relationships and the trials and tribulations of marriage and, people keeping their word, not keeping their word and the heartache and all that, one day she sat down on her daddy's lap and said, "Daddy, I know you love me and I want you to grant me one wish." And he's like, "Of course I'll grant your wish, darling. What would you like?" She's like, "I don't want to get married ever." Ever? No, I don't want to. Okay, well, we normally all find someone we love and never ever. Okay, said Zeus. So be it. And so Artemis went and she lived in the woods with the animals as her companions, and she kind of hung out with all the nymphs and the little nature beings and the nature spirits and so on. Sometimes she kind of reminds me of Taylor Swift and like her Rat Pack, Girl Pack kind of thing in that type of way. But, what she did is she didn't want to be like other people. She wanted to dance to the beat of her own drum. There, because she lived in the forest, a lot of hunters would actually pray to Artemis. And they would ask, "Will you please give us one of your animals so that we can eat and so we can survive throughout the winter?" And she would gift them one because they honored her. She became connected with the moon and living in harmony with the moon. So basically what she represents, I love her because she's all about nature, the moon, and being a little bit different, following your own calling, dancing to the beat of your own drum, and being independent. She really sings to the people that decide, I don't want to be like anyone else, and that's okay, and finding the beauty in that. So she's absolutely amazing in that way. The essential oil that leans into her is Davana. Now, Davana is not a floral oil, but it kind of acts like a floral oil, so I'm going to throw it in there. So the Latin name of Davana, look at it, Artemisia pallens. It's actually part of the Artemis family. The really interesting thing that you'll often hear people talk about, it's one of the key things of Davana, is when you roll it on and give it a few minutes, if we're all sitting in a room together, you'd smell different to me, to the next person. Some people, as it settles and dances with your chemistry, you smell really floral. Other people will smell kind of herby, others woody, and others earthy. So not only does it create a unique scent and perfume for you, but on a magical level, Divina helps to awaken, just like Artemis does. Really, Sandy likes Artemis, yep. Really helps to reveal your unique magic. Sometimes we go, I'm not like other people. And I hope so far what we've covered in the last couple of hours of this course, you realize that it doesn't matter because we're all different. Some of us are like Aphrodite, and you probably know an Aphrodite in your life. Some of us are more Hecate, and some of us are more Artemis. But what Divina helps us to do is to appreciate others' uniqueness. You are special and unique and perfect. And guess what? So is everyone else. So Divina works for that aspect of that compassion for the higher heart chakra as well, to help you just embrace the differences. If we're leaning into Artemis, Artemis lives in nature, and no environment can survive as a multi-organism culture. In every forest, in every woods, in every desert, in everything, there are multiple plants and animals, and the differences of all help to bring that balance, that harmony, that creates that ecosystem. And Divina shows us that in the nature of humanity, we also need that. We also need that difference, that diversity. What would happen if every single person on this earth was just a hairdresser? All we needed to do was cutting hair. We wouldn't get too much achieved. That's a really kind of novel example, but appreciating people's difference allows different ideas, different perspectives. If we all believe the same thing, if everyone agreed with you all the time, then we'd never question it. And so this is what Divina and Artemis bring in, is to first appreciate your own uniqueness, but also to appreciate everyone else's uniqueness and to honor that and to celebrate that. And so, even David Sterling, one of the founders of doTERRA, challenged us a while back, and it really kind of it was about the time that they released Divina, challenged us all to become friends with someone completely different to yourself. Get to know their story, come to understand them. We often surround ourselves with like-minded people, hanging out with them and doing the same things, and they all agree with us. And that stops us from expanding and embracing the colors of our rainbow. So Divina helps us with that. So guess what your homework or your home play is? I'd really like you to lean into one of these new goddesses and work with one of these different essential oils for this week. Try it on for size. See what kind of works. Let me know. I'd love to know in the chat. Are there any questions? This is your chance to ask questions, and also your chance to let me know which goddess you most sung out with. Is the goddess that you chose in the artwork at the start, is that the goddess that you kind of resonate the most with now? Or have you done a bit of a flip and a change? Let me know. Tony's definitely going with Artemis. Cool. I have a special connection to Artemis, but that will be revealed at a later date. No, Helena's moved to number 2 and 3. Beautiful. Does anyone need me to go through anything again or double check anything again? No, everyone seems rather good. Okay, cool. If you do have anything, keep typing and I'll jump back to that in 2 moments. Okay. So I need to make a slight change. So our next session is not going to be next Wednesday at the same time. It's going to be in a fortnight, in 2 weeks. Next week, I'm heading over to the doTERRA Leadership Convention, and I just worked out that it's just not going to work with my travel times and a few other things. I don't trust myself when I'm traveling to be able to make a connection to internet and be able to teach it. And so, as my word is my bond, I want to be able to give you the right thing. I have to change the date, so I'm breaking my word there. And to compensate for that, I'm going to give you all a bonus lesson. So I've actually added new content that wasn't meant to be part of this course. But I was like, I hate saying that I was going to do 3 weeks in a row and I'm not. So what you'll find is I'll get this replay up as soon as possible, or even try maybe get it up tonight if I can get it done between the other couple of classes that I'm doing. And then straight after that, I'm going to load a third class that I recorded earlier today. What it's going to do is it's actually going to take you through a bit of astrology and looking at, because each of the many of the goddesses have an asteroid named after them. So like we've talked about Juno, we've talked about, Aphrodite, Venus is the planet and that kind of thing. And where they place on your chart, so where they were in the sky when you were born, could impact your affinity with different goddesses or your ability to access them. So I'm going to show you how to find out where some of these goddesses were or their asteroids were when you were born, how to interpret your astrological chart, and a few little things like that. Now, I will kind of pre-warn you that astrology is a bit like mathematics. And I don't know how you did at maths at school. You know, I did okay, but not the best. Definitely wasn't my favorite subject at all. So bear with it. Follow the guide, follow the notes, see how you go. If you get stuck, we can work out how you can get in touch with me. And I was even thinking, if you want me to kind of help you flesh it out and work through it, I can do like a 20-minute, $20 consultation and explain it all to you if you give me your birth chart and different things like that as well. The other thing you're going to do is you're going to prepare for our third actual lesson. And we were going to do this as part of our third lesson, but this will give you time to be prepared and think about it. Is we're going to look at how much fire, air, earth, and water is actually in your birth chart. So you probably know that you're a fire, air, earth, or water sign. But that's where the sun was when you were born. The sun may have been in an air sign, but the moon may have been in a water sign, and Mercury may have been in an earth sign, and Venus may have been in a fire sign. So these will affect you. So this is why sometimes we'll have someone who's maybe a water sign like a Cancerian, but they don't seem to be that emotional. And it could be because they have a lot of air and earth that kind of settles them, because that's where the other planets were. So you'll work your way through the worksheet, and I give you a demo of how to actually calculate that as well. So there's a bit of calculating, but there's also a bit of analysis, and I've got some links in there so you can actually read up and find out things like, different aspects of your personality, which everyone always likes to find out as well. So I hope you enjoy it. It was fun putting it together today, and I hope that that's enough for you to forgive me for not keeping my word. Let me just read it in the comment. Not saying it's going to look into Juno. Awesome. I'll give you a little hint. Juno, I've got a link in the workbook and or the notes that I'm going to send out on the bonus lesson, and you actually get to work out where Juno was, because Juno is one of the biggest asteroids, and so it has a really big influence on us. Oh, good. And Tony said, I'm forgiven. That's the main thing. Oh, cool. And Paul loves Amaterasu. Awesome. I'm glad you like her. I really quite like her as well. So a really interesting one. That's all I have for you tonight. So as I said, I'll get lesson 2's replay up on the YouTube link, and then I'll send you an email that you know when that's up and the bonus lesson is up. So you can dive into that ASAP. If you reserve this time each week, then maybe reserve the hour next week. And I think it's about a 20-minute lesson. And by the time you stop and start and do a little playing around and adding up and looking at things, that'll probably fill your hour. Do it whenever you want. But I will see you live back here in my little room in a fortnight from now. I think everyone's happy. Yep. If you haven't had a chance to ask a question, feel free to email me. But until 2 weeks away, take care and blessed be.